easily achieved. And yet, we have to conquer those things. And we do see this increased visibility of these problems. And one of the things I'm very enthused about is we have a pamphlet out in the book to come out in the months ahead called Millions Fed, which can take some of the success stories and get people to have understand it. If you bring these things up in terms of all the acronyms and the different agencies and trying to figure out what the budget is, it's not as clear-cut as if you tell the success stories. And certainly in health, we did a book like this called Millions Saved, which was about new vaccines or helping with skilled birth attendants, and that really galvanized things. So we brought that same lesson of bring more people to the party through the good news, the success stories. We're trying to apply that here as well.
I'm not sure if we have more time, but that's, technology is, as a vehicle of change, has tremendous power. As you indicated, that these problems are getting complex. I have an understanding that you came to agriculture believing that addressing the health issue alone may not fully address the concerns of the poor in Africa. And so this holistic approach is what is really necessary, an integrated approach towards the problem, and as you indicated, bringing people together. And that's why I am advocating the fact that you have, in the person of Kofi Annan, and the most respectable African in the program. He can knock at anybody's door and get attention from African leaders. And I pledge the name, your name and your family name, working both on the front in Africa as well as in the developed world, where people who are making commitments, similar commitments to the cause of the poor, can come together, begin to make this, as many are now beginning to say, to make this a country-led program and activity. And I pledge that you would be a willing participant in that dialogue.
Absolutely, and that's the great thing about the leadership at AGRA and having Kofi involved is they're there in Africa, they know the leaders, and so as things are being done well, they can make sure the right praise and reinforcement is there. Things like the agricultural budgets, so they're still, pretty disappointing. If that's not happening, they can, in a very constructive way, often in a hopefully southern appropriate way, push for those things to be done well. So it's our voice in particular, but then we get the leverage as we've been able to back great people and show them what can be done. And for us to come to agriculture, it was really a progression of things. We first started on population issues, and that got us into health. And then when we got into health, we were learning about nutrition and some of the challenges. And I read the Gordon Conway book, and we let some people come in and tell us the story. The Dr. Borlaug story first and foremost, but many others as well. And that's what said to us, it really has that same paradigm, that if you have good governance, you take a long-term approach, science is a piece of it, but you can have this very dramatic impact. And so, that's why I think it's great to be here with this group, making the commitment to work with those national programs that you've asked for.
One of the weakest institutions in Africa is the private sector. And one of my hopes is that we would make this assertion that public and private partnership is important. I think there is gradual recognition of that happening. While someone like Kofi Annan can really, with confidence, affirm the value of public institutions and the commitments of government to development. And my hope is you have the credibility to speak about the power of the private sector in terms of catalyzing that kind of activity in Africa as well.
Yeah, the role of the private sector, if the private sector is unleashed, it can do amazing things. And so a lot of these government policies have to do with deciding what the government needs to do to enable that to happen. And so it's both the local private sector and then it's other private sector actors actors coming into Africa, making investments as well. And so I do think we're starting to see beginnings of that with a lot of the responsible companies.
I want to be clear. Bill Gates can speak as long as he wants at the Boardwalk Dialogue, but I promised him, and he asked me to promise him that we'd stay on time because he's got a strong schedule to follow. So this is the Boardwalk Dialogue, and this has been a fantastic dialogue. Thank you both very, very, very much. Dr. Borlaug, in addition to having a dream of bringing the green revolution to Africa, had another dream that the World Food Prize could come to be seen as the Nobel Prize for Food and Agriculture. Our events could be the most significant observance of UN World Food Day, which is tomorrow. And I think there has been no event that has done more to make that possible, Mr. Gates, than you're coming here today to be with us and delivering this speech. So I tried to think of how could I say thank you of this. And when we were speaking, Mr. Gates told me he'd never met Dr. Borlaug. I was with Norm 3 days before he died, and we talked about you. And I asked Norm, because I didn't realize that the two of you hadn't met, and I asked Norm if he had ever given you one of his replicas of his Congressional Gold Medal that he received in 2007. And he said, he should have one, he should have one. So I promised him that I would bring this. Now, we have a number of the replicas of this, but in here is the replica that he gave me, and it was in his hand, and I think you should have that, because you are doing more to fulfill his dream than anybody I know. So to say thank you, and personally autographed a couple of copies of his book, the Leon Hesser book, when it came out, and I've kept these in my office. His name is in here as he wrote it. I want you to take that away. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. All right, on to the next part of the program. I want to invite our next panel to come up.
Yeah, when you come out, let me know. I'd love to see that. Ready? Oh, super. Great.
Henry. Secretary.
Yes.
Mr. Nice.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Nice to meet you.
Yes. Welcome to Iowa. Sure. I thought we had something scheduled.
Yeah, we had something scheduled for the afternoon. I think we may be able to. We're working on it. I think we might be able to.
Well, we've got what, about 20 minutes.
Yeah, we might have some time right now, actually.
Right now. About 20 minutes. I've got to meet the Canadian.
All right, so if I could ask everybody, please take your seats.